Hello friends and welcome. My name is Mario Allende. This is my dear friend Heidi McBratney, and today we're going to have a conversation about what we need to do or things we can do to help connect with ourselves. My first question to Heidi: when we think of creating a new step into the unknown, how do we let go of any anxieties we have?
Important question. The first is to realize that we are likely going to have anxiety. When we do, that means we are stepping into something different and unknown, and it's normal for our being to react to that because we don't know where we're going with that. But what we want to do is be able to honor the past, so that, because the past is part of those anxieties, all of those what ifs that we question ourselves on, or some of our past patterns or beliefs that we worry about of, what if that shows up again? But what has happened in the past is exactly why we're here right now. We've gotten through so many things, and we have to start to turn it to see how we have become strong and capable as a result of all that we've gone through. The next is to help let go of the anxiety, is to let yourself imagine. Pretend there is something new. It's like you're training your brain or your thoughts to go in a new direction. It becomes your focus that becomes really important. And so as you have something to focus on, it's much harder for the anxiety to take up space. But when we don't have a lot to focus on, our anxiety gets to run rampant and fill that space. So if you can dream, imagine, play in your mind. We often know what we don't want, but we have to think about, what do I want? What do I want to create? What could be new? And let yourself kind of be a little crazy with the idea, because we tend to keep ourselves small. We have to go big.
Okay, so those patterns or beliefs, do you have any other tips, maybe a couple of tricks to make sure that we don't fall so quickly back into them?
Okay. Well, the biggest thing is, first you need to have a way to connect to yourself, to have an awareness, a consciousness. And that could be so many ways. There's not one way. I'm just going to give off a bit of a list. Some people like to journal. Some people like to go and play golf, and it feels like it clears their mind while they're out on the golf course. Some people like a meditation. Someone recently taught me about video blogging. I don't like to journal, I have to admit that. And so when I turn on my camera on the phone, I can play it back and hear myself and see myself and my own reactions. So it gives me some way to connect even to myself. So that's the first step and tip, is to have a way to connect in. And I would do it not just when life is challenging, but make it a regular habit. So it's ongoing, because when we have a habit of doing that, then we're going to catch ourselves before we're actually in full-blown anxiety. The other thing that we can use, and this is a more unusual one, is anything that is happening in your life around you, is you consider that like an actual mirror that you're looking at. So let me try and explain this. Let's say you're looking outside, and right now where we are today is a beautiful sunny day. And we're looking at how beautiful it is, or at least I am right now, how beautiful it is, how good it feels for the sun to be shining. And yet another person, or if it had been me yesterday when I had a migraine, I would look at that sun and I'd go, oh, it's so bright. Oh, it's hurting me. And so you see how the exact same thing is actually reflecting or mirroring something that's happening inside of me at that moment in time. So if I just pay attention to my own thoughts, my own thinking, my own feeling, it's actually telling me about my patterns and beliefs in that very moment in time. And then I can use that. Then I can say, oh, do I want to keep that? Is it working for me? Or, maybe I need to do something a little differently.
Perfect. Okay, so that's fine, great, makes sense. Everything makes sense until the fear comes. So the fear of the unknown comes along. We're human, so it comes along.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everything goes out the window. So
Yeah.
any tips for what to do when that fear of the unknown just comes out of nowhere?
Absolutely. So one is, I'm going to give it a couple of different ways and tips. The first is when we all know what fear feels like. We feel it in our body, our cloudy thinking, all sorts of things start to happen. If you can do something as simple as breathe. And sometimes when we're in a lot of fear or anxiety, we actually can't breathe. It's very challenging to breathe. So that becomes your focus. Just breathe. Feel your air going in, air going out. You don't even have to be more complicated than that. Because we need to give the mind something to focus on. Otherwise, it's going to keep focusing on what you are experiencing, the symptoms, and it's going to exaggerate it more. So that's one simple one, right away. And you can do that anywhere. The next is to know that since we were born, we're always heading into the unknown. We're always going to hit some of those patterns of uncertainty and fear. And if you can remember back, when you were a kid, you didn't know what the first day of school was going to be like. Or you wanted to meet a new person that could maybe be a friend and you didn't know if they wanted to be a friend of yours. You wanted to climb a tree. You had to learn something new at school. We grow up, we go to new schools. We get a job. We have to talk to someone new. Everything we're doing is different and new in our life. And if we can remember that we actually got through all of that, it actually challenges us to kind of go, I've done things before. I'm going to get through this, even though it's hard. We start to use our fear as a motivator, that I don't want to feel this anymore. And I want to push through to the other side of it. So sometimes we think we have to wait to get rid of the fear. And what I'm suggesting is you're going to have it anyways. Use it to motivate you to get to the other side of it.
Wow. Okay. So it seems to me that these tips, I'm just from my own experience, these tips, I know they work. I've used them. But what happens, I don't know, again, is it because we're humans or because as time goes by, we need to be reminded or sometimes we forget. So I guess it's the same question, but how to stay focused on what you want when you're overwhelmed. So over time, what are the practices that we can employ?
So you used an important word, and the word is focus. We need something to focus on. And the way our body works is that the fear is located in one area of the brain, but if our focus is located in a different area of the brain. So it's almost like we're trying to move the brain from one location to another. So the prefrontal lobes, also nicknamed the God brain, is where we want to create some of that focus. So how do we do it? What might be some tips? Well, that part of the brain likes symbols versus the words or trying to talk ourselves through something. So it could be a symbol of, I once had someone they had to be in court and face a very horrible situation. And so we put a small stone in their pocket that they could carry on the stand with them. The only deal was that they were not allowed to throw the stone in court. But they held on to it. And every time they felt frozen or anxious, they held on to that stone in their pocket even more. And it reminded them of how strong they were, and strong like that stone. They were unbreakable. So that's an example of a symbol. Some people have been making what we call vision boards. So vision boards is where we cut out pictures and we put them on a board, and hopefully they don't end up in the back of the closet, but you put it somewhere where you see frequently, or you're even passing by it because subconsciously you're going to notice it and your system starts to interact with that symbology. Some people like music, dance, movement, poetry. These are all symbols that start to move our body and our being in a certain way. And that, again, helps push us through the overwhelm, as well as helps us keep that focus on what we really want. I remember one time I bought my very first car when I was 16. And the only type of car I could afford to buy was a standard or a manual stick shift. But I had learned on an automatic. And I got a 5-minute lesson from the car dealership person, and off I was. And the ride home should have taken about 15 minutes. But of course, I'm new, I'm learning something. And I'm scared. I'm on the road with other cars. I am stalling the car because I have to figure out how to work the brake and the gas and the clutch all at the same time, as well as your hand on a stick shift. And I will tell you, it was a very grueling 1.5-hour ride home. And I went through all kinds of emotions: anxiety, anger, thinking I was crazy for buying this car, angry at myself. I remember hitting the steering wheel, getting stuck in the middle of an intersection when I stalled the car, and cars honking at me, because of course they don't know I'm a new driver on a standard. They're just trying to get through the intersection. But you know what? I kept the focus of, because I did think about leaving the car in the middle of the intersection. But that I knew that wouldn't be the right thing to do.
It's an option.
And so I just kept the focus on that I needed to have that vehicle. That vehicle represented freedom for me and an opportunity to move forward in my life. I needed to have it, and it was no choice but to learn how to do it. And that kept pushing me through my fear, my frustration, my tears. And I'll tell you, I'm really good at driving a manual these days.
That's perfect. Before that, you were talking about I remember the vision board. Before moving to Toronto, I lived in another province, and I remember, like, it was probably the only time in my life I did it, and I don't know why I don't do it all the time, because it works perfectly. The vision board is amazing. It reminds me of where you were mentioning music, dance. I think these are all just ways to get out of your mind. And either you're using your body, or you're using that music you're playing, that you're putting yourself in the moment. Take a break from your mind, you're in the moment, and you have no choice but to be in that moment. And the vision board, what it did for me was, you just start collecting. I don't know, I was collecting from magazines, newspaper, anything, but without thinking of it. My friend would give me some instructions, like, go find magazines, whatever you want, start cutting anything that catches your eye. Mm-hmm. So don't even think about why, but okay, this caught my eye, this caught my eye, oh, that caught my eye. Start making the vision board. Really not thinking about it is the important part, because you're not engaging with that mind. And the next thing you know, you've got this board. You took it out of your mind and you just put it there. So now you could always walk past it, or you could have it at your desk, you could have it wherever, daily reminder.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe almost 15 years later, I can tell you that everything on that vision board happened. Everything became a reality. So it went from random pictures, not knowing why. Let me put a bicycle here. I remember there was this a picture of a Cuban band. I played music back in the day, but for whatever reason, I cut a picture out, and some of those guys in that picture live in the city and are the players that I get to see and
Right.
occasionally play with and hang out with. So it can be that real. You took it out, put it on the paper, and then it becomes reality. And it happened.
And it's amazing that our logic doesn't understand how that can happen. You just see that you put something randomly together, you created a focus. And even if it was happening unbeknownst to you, your system was taking in that information. And then as your system was taking it in, unknown to you, you were somehow creating it in your outer world or drawing it to you because it shifted you more and more every time you maybe passed by that vision board. And so that's why we want to have something. We allow ourselves to pretend and imagine and be like kids and kind of go, gee, I wonder what if. Because as kids, we didn't have as much uncertainty or fear, or our mind wasn't active in the way of watching out for things. It was more active in wondering about things and being curious and seeing what if it could be possible. So in some ways, we want to be kid-like again and kind of go, well, what if?
Yeah, all of those patterns, like when you're a kid, you haven't had a chance to drill those patterns, those beliefs into your mind as the years go by. So yeah, that's if we can go back to that balance, maybe between mind and spirit.
So I want to encourage all of us to connect. Find those simple ways, whether it's just through your breath, whether it's acknowledging and embracing the impact of the past and how it's had created patterns on you, and then you're imagining creating a different way because you no longer want that. Even allowing yourself to imagine something that can feel like out of hand, not possible, but play in the realm of why not? Is it starts to move you in a different direction. And then I want to remind you to have ways where you connect to yourself in a regular way, whether it's music, meditation, golfing, fishing, gardening, whatever works to bring you connected to yourself. That's going to help you continue to move forward. So let's enjoy life together, friends. Thank you, Mari.
Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.